Hi everyone, welcome to Metta Monday. Let's just take a minute and see who's in the room, welcome one another with our hearts. Our friends on the path that we're doing this beautiful, wholesome practice together with. Welcome, happy to see you, happy to sit together. A blessing to sit together. So, for anyone who's new to Metta, loving kindness practice, Metta is the Pali word. Pali is the language that the Buddha's teachings have been passed down to us through. It's often translated as loving kindness, as kindness, as goodwill. And it's a practice to be cultivated. It's a quality of heart. It's in the 4 divine abidings, the Brahma Viharas, the heavenly dwellings, along with compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, the places we can dwell, the homes for our heart. So, for most people, due to our conditioning, social, cultural, familial conditioning, it can be challenging to cultivate metta. There's often places where it doesn't flow naturally. It's why it's a practice, why it's needed to cultivate. And it gets stronger with more practice. It grows with more practice. And different things can come up in our life that can make it more difficult in times of challenge or great fear, like crazy world circumstances, etc. But as we cultivate this quality of heart, these wholesome states, along with our metta, all of our other wholesome states get strengthened, become the habit of the mind. So the ordinary habit of mind that however long we've lived and in many past lives also, the unawareness, the times that we're not mindful, we're just on a habit train of mind. And very, very often it's either greed for something, wanting something, attachment to something that's causing suffering, or aversion to something, pushing away something, rejecting experience, hating this, hating that, wishing things were not the way that they are. Or delusion, being checked out, cold indifference. And with practices like metta and like mindfulness, our other wholesome states of mind grow, our wisdom grows, our compassion grows, our tranquility grows, our clarity and balance of mind grows. Ultimately, the entire path leading to complete liberation, complete freedom from suffering, is cultivating wholesome states and diminishing the unwholesome states. Naturally, as we cultivate metta, as that becomes the habit of the mind, or as mindfulness, a kind awareness of what's happening moment to moment, becomes the habit of mind, naturally the unwholesome, unskillful states of mind diminish. We don't have to force them away or fight them. So, moving towards our guided practice, an invitation to check into the body, ask the body what would be supportive to ease and comfort in this moment through this practice. What position, sitting or laying down, what would be nourishing? Inviting the release of tension from the body, from the heart. What is supportive? What is kind to the body? What is kind to the heart? Just settling in. Inviting a full deep breath in and inviting the body to relax on the exhale and soften. Another full deep breath in. And is it possible to relax a little deeper on the exhale? Another full deep breath in. And releasing and softening on the exhale. Inviting the forehead to soften, the face to relax, the eyes to sink back, nothing to look at, nothing to look for. Inviting the neck and shoulders to relax and drop down. Inviting the belly to hang soft and loose. Inviting any other part of the body to soften and relax, any tension to release, without pushing or trying, without judging any experience that comes up, without worrying about doing it right or doing it wrong. Without any criticism of what does arise during this meditation, just kind awareness, a gentle presence. Not needing it to be different, not needing to be better. Tuning into the heart center, the center of the chest. Inviting a light to arise. I'll be offering both visualizations and phrases during this guided sit. Invite it in. If it resonates, don't if it doesn't. Letting that light arise in the heart center. A warm glow. This energy of kindness emanating from the heart center. Inviting this warm glow from the heart to expand outwards through the body. Letting it bring softness and ease into all parts of the body. This gentle, warm glow. Inviting a smile, gentle smile, or the energy of the smile to emanate through the body. letting this light shine through all parts of the body, through all the bones, through the blood, illuminating every part. Through the organs, the muscles and tissues. This energy of kindness. The skin. The whole body held in this light. This kindness emanating through the whole body. Every part illuminated. If there's any area where there's pain or discomfort that's been injured or that's been held with rejection or shame, let the light shine there. Let it be held in this gentle, warm glow. I care for you. May you be well. Inviting this energy. Inviting the entire mind space, the heart mind, to be illuminated in this glow. The whole being, mind and body. Offering kindness to this being, born into this life, as a pure little baby, growing as a child, into adolescence and young adulthood. This being that grows like all other beings, humans, through middle age, like all other humans, growing older into aging. being of the nature to fall ill, and being of the nature to die. Nothing to do but wish well for this being. What would it be like to accept myself completely as I am? What would that feel like? What might it be like if I just loved myself exactly as I am? What would it feel like if I could forgive myself for any unskillful actions, holding myself with compassion for my conditioning? May I be peaceful. May I be safe and protected. May I be free of mental suffering and free of physical suffering. May my heart be at ease. Again, tuning into the heart center, the light emanating, inviting the body to relax and soften. And letting that light from the heart grow brighter and brighter. Bringing to mind another being, an easy being, someone towards who metta flows easily or naturally. Someone who's been kind to you. Someone whose presence brings joy in your life. Visualizing them, their heart glowing in this light, their heart touched by this light, and their face glowing with a gentle smile. Seeing them warmed and happy, receiving this energy. May you be peaceful and joyful. Safe and protected. May you be free of mental suffering and free of physical suffering. May you live with ease in your heart. Bringing to mind a being with whom we may have had challenge or difficulty, maybe minor difficulty or minor irritation. Visualizing them, someone towards whom you would like to send metta or like to be able to send metta to. Just a practice of our wholesome intentions. Being gentle with ourselves through this, inviting the body to relax, this warm light to emanate from the heart, brighter, and touching this person's heart, seeing their heart glowing, and seeing their face glowing. At ease, receiving this energy. And if it feels like too much or too difficult at any point, feel free, back off. Go back towards where metta flows naturally to another being. We cultivate it where it flows and it gets stronger and naturally can overflow. No forcing, no pressure. And no worries if emotions arise in the process. Again, this light emanating from our heart and holding this being, seeing them glowing. May you be peaceful and joyful. May you be safe and protected. May you be free from mental suffering and free from physical suffering. May you live with ease in your heart. Offering these words of forgiveness by my teacher, Larry Yang. For any way that you have caused harm to me, knowingly or unknowingly, in thought, word, or deed, may I forgive you. May I allow you to be a student of life and to make mistakes. May I recognize your humanity in the midst of my pain. May I forgive you, and if I cannot do so in this moment, may I be able to forgive you in the future. And bringing the light back into the heart center, letting it emanate again through this being, through ourselves, through the whole body and mind. Letting this warm glow spread through the whole body, softening and loosening. Relaxing the body, relaxing the face, the shoulders, the belly. Offering these words of forgiveness to ourselves. For any way that I have caused harm to myself through judgment, action, self-blame, indifference, knowingly or unknowingly, in thought, word, or deed, may I forgive myself. May I allow myself to be a student of life and to make mistakes. May I forgive myself. And if I cannot do so in this moment, may I be able to forgive myself in the future. What would it be like if I could forgive myself for unskillful or harmful behavior? What would it feel like to be free of blame and shame and guilt? What might that feel like? What would it feel like to be free of blaming and shaming others, free of criticism? What might it be like to feel love and compassion? Love and compassion for ourselves and for others. To be free of judgment. Again, tuning into the light in the heart center, inviting it to grow bright. This loving kindness radiating through the whole body, radiating out brighter and brighter to everyone in this room together, our friends in this circle, holding one another, recognizing that we all suffer and we all wish not to suffer. Sharing this kindness with one another. May you be peaceful. Dear friends, may you be safe and protected. Everyone here glowing in this light. Holding everyone and also being held, feeling held by one another. Letting it in. May you be free of mental suffering and free of physical suffering. May you live with ease in your heart. Letting this light expand, radiating out in all directions, outward and unbounded, over the entire world in all directions. This light touching all beings on land, in the sky, in the water, all creatures, human and non-human, near and far, the entire world glowing in this light. Our metta meeting the sea of metta from all these other beings all over the world, sending out loving kindness, prayers, peace. Everyone's hearts being touched, all beings glowing in this light. As I wish not to suffer, may all beings not suffer. As I wish to be happy, may all beings be happy. Thank you for your beautiful practice. Let's take a couple minutes, maybe 2 minutes. Just let that settle and integrate before we change gears into discussion. Drink some water, stretch. All right. So I received a little question in the chat, and there's a sutta I was planning on sharing that addresses or speaks to the question, or a question about anger and rage. First here, I'm going to drop into the chat the forgiveness phrases by the teacher Larry Yang. Highly recommend them. Supportive for cultivating metta, especially when we see, as we start practicing, the places that it's stuck or that it doesn't flow naturally, the places that were blocked, the places that we want it to flow but it's not coming. Sometimes things like a lack of forgiveness or holding of resentment and blaming and shaming and other difficult emotions can be like rocks in the way. We get to chip away at them over time with practices like offering forgiveness, and like cultivating loving kindness, just having the wholesome intention, like whether or not the metta is actually flowing, that's not actually what's important, but it's this continual coming back to the practice and cultivation of it. Sometimes it's going to be there and palpable, and sometimes it's not. And no judgment on that. Just the wisdom of coming back to it, of knowing that if there's bitterness, like forgiveness will be of benefit. May I one day be able to forgive you, or one day be able to love myself. So this sutta, it's one I've brought in before. I'll just drop it in the chat also. Majjhima Nikaya number 21, Simile of the Saw. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's kind of long. I'm reading towards the end. He goes through a series of, he's talking about people saying things that are difficult for us, that we may react negatively to. In it, there's a monk being criticized and reacting with anger. There's a woman whose servant isn't doing what she wants and ends up becoming violent in anger. And so this small section I'm going to read is actually towards the very end. Monks. He's talking to monks. There are these 5 aspects of speech by which others may address you: timely or untimely, true or false, affectionate or harsh, beneficial or unbeneficial, with a mind of goodwill or with inner hate. Others may address you in a timely way or an untimely way. They may address you with what is true or what is false. They may address you in an affectionate way or a harsh way. They may address you in a beneficial way or an unbeneficial way. They may address you with a mind of goodwill or with inner hate. In any event, you should train yourselves. And this is like as though you're saying it. Our minds will be unaffected and we will say no evil words. We will remain sympathetic to that person's welfare with a mind of goodwill and with no inner hate. We will keep pervading them with an awareness imbued with goodwill, and beginning with them, we will keep pervading the all-encompassing world with an awareness imbued with goodwill, large, immeasurable, free from hostility, free from ill will. That is how to train yourselves. And he gets a little gnarly here. It's where the title of the sutta comes from, the simile of the saw. Monks, even if bandits were to carve you up savagely, limb by limb, with a two-handled saw, he among you who lets his heart get angered even at that would not be following my teachings. Even then, train yourselves. Our minds will be unaffected, and we will say no evil words. We will remain sympathetic, with a mind of goodwill and with no inner hate. We will keep pervading these people with an awareness imbued with goodwill, and beginning with them, we will keep pervading the all-encompassing world with an awareness imbued with goodwill, abundant, enlarged, immeasurable, free from hostility, free from ill will. That's how to train yourselves. Monks, if you attend constantly to this admonition on the simile of the saw, do you see any aspects of speech, slight or gross, that you could not endure? And they say, no, Lord. Then attend constantly to this admonition on the simile of the saw. That will be for your long-term welfare and happiness. So, for your long-term welfare and happiness, what would it be like to send metta towards someone who is saying things that are unbeneficial or with a mind that doesn't have goodwill? What would it be like? Even in a disagreement, to still have, here metta is translated as goodwill, to still feel loving kindness towards somebody, to have the wisdom that keeps the mind balanced, causing harm, are causing harm to themselves, creating unwholesome karma, creating future suffering for themselves, along with creating suffering for others. People who are causing harm in the world do so from a place of ignorance, recognizing places in ourselves when we have caused harm, holding that compassionately, knowing it comes from a place of ignorance, wishing for forgiveness. And the more we're able to develop the forgiveness for ourselves, the easier it becomes to be able to offer that forgiveness to others. The more we stop blaming and shaming ourselves, the more we stop blaming and shaming others. And when we also recognize, so when we have our anger and rage come up in reaction to someone else, what does that feel like in our body? What does it feel like? What's happening physically? Meeting it with mindfulness, a kind awareness in the body. What's happening in this moment? Okay, there's heat, there's tension, there's sweat, there's buzzing, there's a upward surging. It feels different for different people, but what are the physical sensations that come along with the anger and rage? Turning towards it, not trying to suppress it or force it away, but what is this experience of anger? What is the human experience of anger? Just dropping back into the body, out of rolling in the story. is a very skillful place to start. Also, just recognizing anger is there. Oh, anger, anger, anger. Watching it change, watching the physical sensations change, watching it pass. Recognizing the suffering in it. Very often, beneath the anger, there's something else. Maybe there's fear. Maybe there's grief. Maybe there's this protectiveness. There's the anger is the next outer layer. And as we turn towards it, recognizing it, being with it, recognizing its suffering, wishing not to suffer, having self-compassion. That outer layer, that agitated surface layer of the anger can peel off, can settle down. As we turn towards it, it allows it to flow through. If we're feeding the fire, just feeding the story, we're amplifying the anger. So shifting, recognizing, accepting that this is what's arising in this moment, knowing its impermanence. And just holding ourselves kindly, the suffering arising, the suffering passing. And recognizing that the more we roll in the story or feed the fire, doing things that feed the fire of our anger, that is creating the conditions for more anger in the future. It's creating that as a habit pattern. And so the skillful redirect with mindfulness, with compassion, with metta, that's creating a new habit pattern. Even if the anger lasts for some time, continually meeting it just again and again as we realize that that's what's happening. This old pattern of mind is happening. It diminishes the unwholesome and grows the wholesome. Creates the conditions for less suffering in the future. One thing, so Grandma Ruth Dennison, who I never got to meet, but I've listened to her talks and I live in her kuti. As I've heard and as I've listened to her talks, she had a lot of reflections on death, recognizing our own death, recognizing the coming death of others. And I think of one of the sayings from the beginning, the Buddha's sayings from the beginning of a text called the Dhammapada, where those who, I can't remember the exact translation, but those who recognize the imminence of death settle their quarrels. Say, if we have challenges with the people who are in our families or our friends or our loved ones, very often those are people that bring up the things that are difficult for us, that we have challenging interactions with. Even just in a moment, remembering at any moment, any day, any one of us could die. Sometimes that can also be a skillful way, a skillful reflection that, this little bitter, spiteful thing I want to say isn't worth it. Those aren't the last words I want to say to somebody. Those aren't words really that I ever want to say to somebody. It's not helpful, not going to bring anyone happiness. Also wisely reflecting on times when we've spoken or acted out of anger with what the Buddha called wise remorse. It's different than guilt or shame. Wise remorse that informs us, that helps us understand how we would like to behave in deeper alignment with the wisdom and compassion that lives in our hearts. Not identifying with our past behavior. Oh, I'm so bad. I did this. I deserve to suffer. I'm, a bad person. But like in Larry's phrases, seeing the humanity in our mistakes, allowing ourselves to be a student of life, learning and growing through this process of being consciousness in a body, interacting with other consciousnesses in other bodies in this world, wanting to be happy, wanting not to cause harm, sometimes causing harm, sometimes not being happy. And knowing that every single one of us is going to die. Every single one of us is going to be separated from everything we hold dear. What is there to feel but compassion? Everyone suffers. It doesn't matter how privileged someone seems. Everyone suffers. In a moment, if someone's causing harm and not understanding the harm that they're causing, they're still a being who suffers, who will suffer deeply in the future as a result of their actions. We have a few minutes left here, 5 minutes or so. If anyone has any reflections or questions they'd like to bring in, feel free to raise the little Zoom hand or unmute or drop something in the chat if you'd like. The death reflections also can inspire a sense of spiritual urgency. help motivate us towards these practices that develop our wisdom, develop our skill, and ultimately lead to the complete freedom from suffering. Like, I want to practice for a good reason. My death is imminent. I want to live in deepest integrity with these deeper values. And what kinds of actions can I do of mind, of speech, of body? And the Buddha taught different ways to reflect on our death. He taught a practice called Marananusati. There's even a sutta that's just recollecting one's own death. There's a sutta where a teenage girl actually reached the first stage of enlightenment from reflecting on her own death. He taught it to her because he could see she was going to die very soon, very young. And there's a number of reflections he taught on the body in different stages of decay after death, going from a fresh corpse all the way to like bones scattered in pieces. And that was a lot easier at the Buddha's time when there were charnel grounds and you could see. He would teach people to go and look at those corpses, recognize that is the nature of this body also. And those are also concentration practices that he taught. You can actually reach deep states of concentration just contemplating the skeleton of the body. At the monastery where I practiced for some time in Myanmar, they actually have, once you develop strong concentration up to a deeply concentrated state called the fourth jhana, you can actually directly discern with the mind, like you can internally, like you can discern your organs. The mind is so concentrated, it develops what's called the light of wisdom. And so rather than imagining a skeleton, you actually can directly discern it with the mind. And after you discern your own skeleton, you discern the skeleton of the person in front of you in the meditation hall, and then all the other beings around, like expanding the mind outwards, directly discerning just what is the nature of these bodies, all these beings, flesh, bone, blood. The Buddha also taught this, the 32 parts of the body, just the different components that make up the body. Our body and other people's bodies. This reality that can function as a way of diminishing our attachment and diminishing our identification. In the chat, let's see. This is the first time I've heard the phrase wise remorse. When you asked earlier, what would it feel like to be free of guilt? I wondered, but I want to recognize that I've done wrong. So wise remorse is an option. Can you say more about it? Yeah, sorry, I'm going to go over time a little bit and answer this. Feel free to dip out if it's your time. Right, so recognizing that we've done unskillful behavior or recognizing that we've caused harm. This is wise remorse. This is what is allowing us to reorient, to be skillful, to develop skill in our behavior, in our bodily actions, in our speech, recognizing, this was harmful. I would like not to do that in the future. I would like to whatever, bring joy, bring ease, bring compassion, be connected. In recognizing that, in orienting our actions towards the skillful, in, say, abiding by the precepts that the Buddha taught, say, not killing, not stealing, not committing harm through sexuality, not lying, and not clouding the mind with intoxicants. The Buddha called this the bliss of blamelessness. So very often our minds are agitated when we're trying to sit down and meditate. A lot of things that like we might regret come into our mind, or conflicts come into our mind. And if our behavior is skillful, if we have the bliss of blamelessness, if we are refraining from harming, we don't have that agitation. But part of learning that, part of coming into the bliss of blamelessness, is recognizing where we've caused harm, training our minds to recognize, say, oh, the impulse for harmful speech, and then refraining from it. Or the impulse for a harmful action and refraining from it, and just taking that on as a training. This is a mind training, and we don't have to feel ashamed about where we are in our training. You know, if I'm learning to play the piano, I don't have to feel ashamed that I can only play one song. And just having the wholesome intentions and being joyful about having those wholesome intentions. Keeping those precepts. Yeah, the bliss of blamelessness. So someone asked in a direct message what lineage I studied under in Burma, in Myanmar. I studied in the Pa'ok lineage mainly, P-A-A-U-K. Also in the Panditarama lineage, Mahasi. But I'm currently still training under the Pa'ok teachings. So dedicating the merit of our practice. May the merits of our practice lead to our complete freedom from suffering, lead to nibbana, nirvana, our complete liberation. May the merits of our practice be offered for the benefit of all beings everywhere in all forms without exception. May we all awaken for the benefit of all.